Cumberland County boasts often about its embracing of the arts, and while it has certainly grown its artistic presence over the last few years, there's not many who consistently capture Cumberland's artistic essence as often as Bob Evans. Bob Evans was my teacher at Cumberland Regional High School, and is a regular at Bridgeton Public Library running poetry workshops, and at Bogart's Bookstore in Millville performing music. We were able to get a hold of Bob to ask him about his life, his career, and his art.
For the last 33 years, I've been a public high school teacher at Cumberland Regional High School. I've also adjuncted at Cumberland County College, and I've been a part-time creative writing teacher at Rowan University since 2008.
We asked Bob about how he tackles putting out work, and the method behind the man.
I know some writers who write books of poetry, and they write books of poetry. I generally write one poem at a time. Right on that table there is my latest conglomeration of poems that I just put together. It's under the candle there. That's basically every poem that I've written for the last 2 years. I'm just going to kind of throw them on the floor and spread them out and take a look and see what goes together, what doesn't go together, what should be in, what should come out. So I don't really have a thematic goal. The goal is just to put out the next book.
Bob was a great teacher when I had him for creative writing, and I was excited to hear about what he had to say about his time leading classrooms.
Safely say I work with some of the finest students in Cumberland County. I've also been given a lot of creative freedom with the classes that I teach. Many of the classes I've written my own curriculum for: science fiction and fantasy class, creative writing class. I wrote a research and debate class. So I think that the high points are definitely the students that I work with. I'm eligible to retire at any time, but I tell my students this semester, as long as I have students like them, why would I think about retiring? They're great.
It hasn't always been ups for teaching, however.
In the last 8 years of the Christie administration, we've been handcuffed, we've been robbed. We're still teaching to a standardized test that we don't even use the standards for anymore. And I think that it feels like part of a conspiracy to dismantle public education. That's very sad for me to see it happen.
Bob regularly uses traditional writing methods and plays folk and country music. We asked him why traditional genres of art speak to him and why he uses them to express his thoughts and himself to the world.
The sound we make after poetry is not the sound we make after sex, but it's close. Like the gasp when we plunge into ice-cold water, and the gasp that follows news of miracles, or worse. Harry Chapin had a song, the first line was, "Remember when the music came from wooden boxes strung with silver wire." And that's the kind of music that I like. I don't even like to play an electric guitar. I prefer the sound of an acoustic guitar. I am my father's son. I grew up listening to Johnny Cash and Johnny Paycheck and other Johnnies like that. And I think classic country music is one of the truest American song forms that there is. As far as the poetry, I just write the poetry that seems true to me. I learned to write before there was ever such a thing as slam poetry, if that's what you mean by non-traditional type styles. And I believe that poetry should convey some sort of a meaning to it, and that meaning should work on several different levels at once. So I like writing poems that are rich in metaphor, rich in imagery, and often narrative poems.
Bob has helped many writers and students over the years chase their artistic endeavors, and we asked him what the one piece of advice would be for artists, musicians, and poets in Cumberland County.
I think the best advice is don't listen to your critical voice when you're writing your first draft, and don't listen when your inside voice tells you, you should give this up, you're not good enough at this. My friend Maria Gillen has the idea of an invisible crow that sits on your shoulder that speaks in the voices of everybody that tells you you're not good enough, you can't do this, you're not fast enough, you're not pretty enough. And she says you have to ignore the crow and go down into the place that she calls the cave, where the true stories of your life reside. And I think that's what you really need to do. You need to turn off the outside critics and also the inside critics and write to just please yourself. Hemingway strove to write one true sentence a day. And if you can do that, if you can write just a small piece of something that you're pleased with, that should be enough for you. Underground, you might be saved. No room for in the darkness of the cave, underground where memories grow. Silence the crow, silence the crow.
So what's next for Bob Evans?
I'm trying to put together a new manuscript from some of the poems I've written over the last couple of years. And I am working on a new CD of original music. My producer tells me it's about halfway finished, so hopefully by this time next year I'll have a CD of music that will be available everywhere.